Hello everyone. Now don't worry, this isn't going to be this week's video. This is just something interesting that I found and that I wanted to share with you guys today. So there's this cool artist on Twitter called Sumika W. Well, Sumika WW. Sumikal. Whatever, you get the point. He's an Argentinian artist, which, as you can see, makes a ton of really good either Black Souls or Black Souls inspired artwork. And since I know that there are a bunch of Black Souls fans on my channel, for very good reason, I thought it'd be interesting to recommend him. Since, as you can see, not only does he make regular art of Black Souls, but it is, well, pretty good art. Like this should actually be the first game's art type of art. But anyway, and not only is he a really good artist in the sense of illustrator, but he also is, as you can see by the description, a game dev. He is currently making two games inspired by Black Souls, those being Epitaph, My Fading Soul, and Hansel and Corpse Land, which, in his own words, started out as Black Souls 2 mods, which is a whole thing that I might make a video later, and eventually evolved into their own games, more inspired by Black Souls with their own ideas, which I'll show later, instead of just something built on the engine. Yeah, I'm having trouble describing it, but you get the point. For now, unfortunately, Hansel in Corpse Land is, well, barely anything. We have a few interesting concepts that the dev has laid out, and we have a couple of really cool artworks like this one I'm showing on screen. But aside from that, we don't have much of anything. It's a project in its very early stages, so it's not even worth showing a lot of what the developers published about it because it can all be changed and moved around at this point in development. Still, when it is a bit more polished and established, I plan to make another video going over that. For now, though, it, as you can see on screen, and if you don't want to look at the screen, don't worry, I'll be reading it for you in a moment. But it is a pretty interesting concept for a game. The character illustrated here is Twin Gretel. He says that the game will have approximately 8 to 10 hours and that it will have both a Covenant system similar to Black Souls and NSFW scenes, which I approve of. It's something actually that I'm going to talk a bit more about since the developer's probably not going to watch this video, right? But if he does, I have some suggestions for this part of the game. And apparently it has 3 endings plus a special ending for each covenant. So you can think of it as probably working like the endings in the original Black Souls. And from what I understand, this game is set in a universe similar to that of Black Souls, with corrupted fairy tales and fairy tale characters, a world of mixed fairy tales, all then very corrupted and kind of perverted and adult. You get the point. It's a dark version of fairy tales, a world of dark fairy tales. Hence why it's Hansel in Corpse Land, since it will be that will be the main character and the name of the setting. But what I really wanted to show is the more robust game that he is developing, which already has a lot of artwork made specially for it. As you can see, I'll show a bit of it off. Some of it is a bit rough, but the as I shown, the artist improved a lot over time. Actually, he went through quite a quick evolution in artwork, which is pretty impressive. Props to him. I assume it's a hen. I'm sorry if I misgendered you. But anyway, yeah, we can see some really cool artworks here, and it will all make sense when we get into the actual concept of the story. We get some not only CG artworks, but we are shown how the game UI looks, a very rough look into how the game UI will look. And you can already see the Black Souls RPG Maker inspired aesthetic, especially with screenshots like this, for example. We have a little look at the combat system, and apparently we're going to have a bit of a persona style presentation with the attacks, which is pretty cool. And I, as an artist myself, even if quite an active one at this point, sorry, I'll get back to drawing someday, I promise. But I gotta give props to the artist for this specifically because it may seem simple, but those who have tried to draw someone pointing a gun and shooting in this fashion, in this perspective, will know that it's a lot more difficult than it looks. So, yeah. Again, this may not show much to an amateur, to someone who is not quite knowledgeable on the field. This might not look like too much, but to someone who understands how difficult this actually is, this brings me a lot of confidence in the project. But finally, let's get into the actual concept of the game that has been established at this point. Okay, so the story revolves around the writer, which is the main character. I'm assuming he eats deal like Grin in the actual Black Souls games, where you probably be able to pick whatever name you want for the main character. Anyway, he and his wife were a renowned writing team, with him bringing her ideas to life. They enjoyed fame, wealth, and recognition until she succumbed to a terminal illness 3 years ago. Since her passing, the writer's works have been abysmal failures, devoid of originality, shamelessly mimicking other writers, leading to dull and uninspired narratives. And just from that, you can see the already quite fictional and fantastic elements of the story, because in reality, that's what most successful writers do and earn tons of money from. So, this would have, in real life, this would have actually been a boom to his business and not decline. But anyway, moving on. One day, realizing that his latest manuscript is just as disappointing as the previous ones, he witnesses a comet soaring through the sky and makes a wish for his wife to return so he can reclaim his lost glory. On a more serious note, this is actually pretty interesting since it establishes the main character as a bit of a egoist, since he's not wishing his wife back because he loves her, but simply because he wants, his success back. So this already establishes that this very subtly that this protagonist is maybe not the best person. Though he is not an outright villain, as we get to see right after. As the story continues with, ashamed of his own desire, he goes to bed, but a sudden noise jolts him awake. The comet reveals itself to be a meteor, and when he steps outside, he finds that the world has transformed. his stories have come to life, and everything has merged into a chaotic blend of his creations. In the process of entering this new realm, the writer loses both his colors and his voice, and now he must work to recover them. If all his characters and stories have become real, does that mean that his wife has come back to life as well? After all, the main character of his latest novel was inspired by her. And that's the concept. Just by reading this little excerpt and seeing the images, you can already tell that this story is going to be very inspired not only by Black Souls, but by a combination of various different things. I see a lot of Alan Wake inspiration, specifically, as well as inspiration from some more esoteric RPG Maker works with the loss of his voice and his colors and this whole journey to recover them. And frankly, it's because of that that I am more excited for this project than by Hansel and Corpseland. Because Hansel and Corpseland seems like very much like an inspired, in quotation marks, work by Black Souls. Like, let's be real, Hansel and Corpseland is pretty much just Black Souls fanfiction, which is cool. Before you freak out, I'm not saying that this is not a good thing, but this is a project that's definitely actually inspired, with no quotation marks, by Black Souls. It's a very original story with some elements that fans might recognize and appreciate, and that I'm very much excited to find out more about. Now comes the recommendation part. Here's the part where I have some suggestions for the author. Because as we've seen with the other Black Souls inspired game To Kill a Fairy Tale, unfortunately, a couple of the more standout elements from Black Souls were taken out in that game. In To Kill a Fairy Tale, for example, you could neither kill nor R-word, let's put it like that, any character you wished, which was a huge selling point of the game, that you could essentially play the whole thing as a D&D murder hobo, right? And you could truly be like very villainous and like a horrible person. It's that freedom that's not offered in a lot of games, especially AAA games, but even a lot of indie games today, that really stood out to me and to a lot of people about Black Souls. So what I would recommend is that I understand not including R-word scenes. Like, the fact that you're going to include hentai scenes is already pretty cool. So if you don't want to include these scenes because you feel uncomfortable or past trauma or anything, that's fine. Frankly, I've made videos already about why I personally also don't like this type of content. But at least preserve the options to be evil. I think any Black Souls inspired work should at least let you make an evil playthrough. Maybe you can't kill every NPC, right? Maybe making a game that works despite that is a bit too hard, I understand. But what I would recommend is that you at least give the players the options to have an evil playthrough and to achieve an ending where you become an actual villain. You know, I think preserving these options from the main inspiration would do wonders to have this game stand out. As well as it would also be a very good nod, and I think that fans of the original work this was inspired by would appreciate. So, just a bit of a suggestion here. Of course, this is Sumika's game. They can do whatever they want with it. I'm not demanding anything. It's just a polite suggestion, okay? And that's even assuming that they will see this video, which will probably not happen, let's be real. But still, my point is, this is a really cool, really talented artist that whose projects I'm very excited for. And that's why I wanted to showcase them right here in this video and, well, show it off to you guys so you can also be excited about it, since I know there are a lot of Black Souls fans in my audience that really appreciated the previous Black Souls inspired work that I showcased, and so I'd like to showcase this other one as well. For now, however, I guess that will be it. If you like this video, please do all the normal YouTube stuff, you know, like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I do hope to see you next video, which will be released still this week, don't worry. For now though, I bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out.